Good morning, everybody. My name is Matt Smith. I am joined by our co-host Cam Ellsworth on Authentic Leadership, and today we have a very, very special guest. Adam Doucette has his own show, and it's Default Positive. And Adam, thank you very, very much for taking the time to be with Cam and myself today.
Yeah, of course. Excited to chat. Thanks for reaching out, and yeah, let's do it. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So I think everyone's aware I'm the military side of the colonel, the coach equation, and Cam is the athletic side of it. Just having served as a Division I athlete, and then also a coach at the Division I level, and then also a coach at Division III level, most recently at Norwich University. And just for our listeners and our viewers, why I reached out to Adam is massive fan of Default Positive, and hopefully, if you guys aren't familiar with Adam, you go over to his channel. But Adam, one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show is Cam and I, each and every episode and each and every time that we work with folks, work with our clients, we try to lift them up and let them know that they're not in this alone, and that they have teammates in Cam and I. And I think that you have done an amazing job of that, just by bringing an unbelievable amount of positivity to the world of sports, the world of athletics, and your knowledge across a multitude of sports is phenomenal. And I would say I'm probably knowledgeable in the baseball realm, in the football realm, and to a certain extent in the basketball realm, but certainly not to your level. So hopefully we can talk about just some the ways in which you bring positivity to just a myriad of different sports in the world today.
Let's do it. Looking forward to it.
Awesome.
Adam, if you don't mind starting, maybe just a Cliff Notes version of who you are, where you're at, and maybe people do know you, don't know you, but maybe if you could give us where this started, and where you're at now, and then we can converse from there.
Yeah, for sure. So my name's Adam Doucette. I'm from about 30 minutes north of Boston, Wilmington, Mass. Went to Wilmington High School, went to Northeastern for college. I was actually a music industry major. That was like the initial sort of, I guess, goal I wanted to be like a songwriter, music producer, sort of creative, but behind the scenes. And I think that's pretty inherently entrepreneurial. I think you can, as a producer or writer, you can get signed to publishing deals or record deals. But I think at least first part of the career, that is usually a pretty do-it-yourself type of thing. So I've always had that sort of do-it-yourself, like I kind of want to start my own thing, just idea. And then when I was at Northeastern, all of my extracurricular stuff was sports media. So I worked at the Boston Globe. I was like a high school sports correspondent. There's a magazine at Northeastern called The Red and Black. It's the sports magazine. And so I was a writer and an editor for that for all of the years that I was there. So that was really fun. Got to meet and talk to a lot of cool people and athletes and stuff. I had a sports talk radio show with two of my best friends that I did for probably 3 years. And I was like a play-by-play and color guy for the hockey and basketball teams. So all of my extracurricular stuff was sports. So maybe that should have told me, maybe you should just make that the main thing. But for some reason, it took me a year out of school to realize that. So, but here we are. I sort of started feeling like probably a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, that the reason that I love sports wasn't the thing that was most reflected in sports media. And there's a reason for that. It's a strategy. I think, like you guys were talking about earlier, before we even hopped on, is that like negativity is sort of incentivized. Like it's a thing that in this sort of algorithmic based internet environment, like if you can get people to engage, then your content's going to be shown to more people. And from a business perspective, from a money perspective, like that's a plus. So I'm not denying that works. A lot of it does work. And you can sort of ride that wave. But I started feeling like if everything is like that, then maybe you can stand out by not doing that instead of just doing the same thing and piling on top of what everybody else is doing. And at the end of the day, like the reason I love sports is the great stories and the athletes and the people they are, the stories behind them and the sort of the things that bring people together and the underdogs. And like, there's so many amazing stories. And I feel like at the end of the day, it's sports. Like it's entertainment. The motto of what I'm doing is sports is supposed to be fun because like at the end of the day, it's not life or death. It's a game. Like it's supposed to be fun. And I feel like personally, and I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way, is we don't watch sports just to hate on them and say, this guy sucks and this guy should be fired. And like, there's a lot of that, and that's fun. Like that's fun. But the real reason I love sports is because of all these awesome stories. And there's so much of that happening that we don't really look for. So I feel like if I could play my little part in sort of making sports more fun, which is what I feel like they're supposed to be, that's the goal.
That's awesome.
we talked a little bit but just the idea that you're taking that, it resonates with me. And it was something when I went from the Division 1 to the Division 3 world, really kind of like brought me back to almost this grassroots of, it's not about the NHL. It's not about what's next. It's about like 30 dudes trying to accomplish a goal together. And it was like humbling, and it really stuck with me. So to see somebody doing that and then finding those stories from all these other sports is pretty awesome. Did you have a sport playing background? Like, how did you get the extracurriculars or enough knowledge to speak on behalf of that?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, I played sports growing up. I played soccer in high school, a lot of basketball. I was never a great athlete. Like, I was fine, very normal. Definitely not a college athlete. I wish I could play college basketball. No, but I feel like I've been a sports fan for a while. I feel like I even came into that relatively late. Growing up, we didn't really have like my immediate family didn't watch a lot of TV. We had like the basic cable like news channels like 4, 5, and 7s, and that like I didn't really watch it until I think 2013 was probably the first year that I cared, that I knew what was going on and I cared. My extended family, like, my grandfather, number one influence in my sports life. He was just massive Red Sox fan, Bruins fan. He played goalie till he was like 60. He was like lived and breathed sports. So that definitely rubbed off on me. But yeah, the rest of my family, uncles, aunts, like just into it. So that definitely helped. So from a fandom perspective, I think 2013, I was 13 years old, so middle school. That was the first year that I really cared. My mom, I was actually talking to her yesterday, and she was saying that this is, I think, either yesterday or 2 days ago was like the 12th anniversary of the Big Papi walk-off home run in the ALCS against Detroit, and the Steve Horrigan in the bullpen with the cop. So that's like one of my first vivid sports memories. I was like listening to it on the radio. So just, yeah, I guess a life of watching it and loving just the stories and the feeling it gives you, and the losses too. But I think I was pretty lucky. I was sort of born into the middle of that cool Boston sports run. So a lot of positivity there that I just kind of lucked into.
Yeah. Like, you got unbelievably lucky, Adam.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'll share my story, and then Cam is a Detroit Tigers fan, just so you know.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah. But no, Adam, I grew up in Southern New Hampshire and then went into the Air Force after, having grown up in New Hampshire. So, and then I just came back in 2018 to Vermont. So I've been away forever. So, but I grew up, and it was kind of sort of the antithesis of what you've experienced through your childhood and in your adult life and stuff like that. So very, very different. But I'll let Cam pull on the Detroit Tigers.
Yeah.
Here.
So Adam, I was wondering if like that would come up, just being a sports conversation, and just to give you a different perspective from that night. So I am a huge Detroit Tigers fan. I grew up an hour from what was old Detroit or Tiger Stadium, Michigan and Trumbull, and now Comerica in a different location. I was at that game, and I was not only at that game, I was 20 rows behind home plate with a Tigers jersey on at that game. I was unfortunately on the other side of that when he hit that ball, and Torrey Hunter went into the bullpen, and the cop and the whole nine. But to your point, the moving to the East Coast, you coming into sports, like, I think the Boston fandom is like running out of parade routes. You know what I mean? Like they've had a lot. So what a great time for you to come into it.
Yeah, for sure. I will say, in my defense, I do feel like I kind of missed out on the first half of it, because I feel like 2013 to 2018 or 20 was like the second half of it. But like the Patriots days and the Red Sox breaking the curse, like I've obviously seen all that, but in real life, in real time, I sort of missed that. So I was lucky to get half of it. But if I was born 5 years, 10 years earlier, like I would have got the whole thing. So
spoken like a true Boston fan, Adam.
Yeah.
Adam's like, darn it, I want more parades. Like, there has to be more parades. And so
what gave you the idea to start this? And then once it started, what became like your moment that, hey, I can do this, like do this,
Yeah. I think going back to what I was saying about knowing that I wanted to start my own thing. So I sort of was trying to come up with an idea. I think the media thing sort of was born out of, I guess, low startup costs. Like, it just felt more feasible. Like, if it's a product company, then you have to like either have a bunch of money to get that first run of product and manufacture it. And that just sort of felt, or the media thing sort of felt like, okay, I'll buy a camera, I'll buy a light. I was a music industry guy, like by training. So like I have the audio know-how and the mics and the stuff like that. So it just felt more feasible and it felt like something I wanted to do. And the thought with Default Positive was really trying to hone in on coming up with an idea that was specific enough to be sort of effective on social media. I was cautious of not having it be Adam's sports takes. Like nobody cares. Truly nobody cares what I have to say unless you give them a reason to care. So definitely conscious of that. Having a specific thing, I think is really important, but then also having it be broad enough to have some sort of appeal, some sort of higher ceiling. Like if it's just Celtics on a Tuesday afternoon when it's raining Instagram channel, like it's too specific. So it's specific enough to like make it a thing, but broad enough to have bigger appeal. And then just more broadly, it's some like the Default Positive thing. It's just something that I felt like wasn't really out there enough, and something that I wanted to see, that I felt like I could do. And I feel like that's the best place to start any business from. Like, this is something that I want, that I think other people might want. I think I can do this. Let's try it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Adam, just changing gears just a little bit. Is there any sport that you found that you just weren't necessarily familiar with before that you have found an unbelievable amount of positivity in? And I say that because one of the books that Cam and I use just when we do some of our leadership stuff is the book Legacy by James Kerr. And it's and obviously it's on rugby, it's on the All Blacks and stuff like that. And I'm not really a rugby guy by trade. I'm not sure that I could explain the rules really to anybody. I probably would enjoy it playing it back in the day. But is there any sport out there that you have found, wow, like the way they talk about, some of the things they do, but is there anything out there that you kind of came across like, wow, I really had no idea. This sport is awesome.
I think the first thing that comes to mind is tennis. I wasn't a huge tennis fan growing up. I never played tennis. But just in the past year or so, and I don't know if it's necessarily because of the sport, like how the sport is and how it's covered in that aspect of it, but I think tennis in 2025, you got these two guys at the very top, Yannick Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz, and it's sort of the next era of like the Djokovic era and the Federer and them. And to have those two specific guys as people, everything I've seen, every interview I've watched, like they're just amazing people and they're super young. Like I think they're like even younger than me. They're like a year younger than me. And just like the way they carry themselves as leaders of the sport, like they are the undeniable two best players. They're meeting in every single finals. Like they are the best. And just to have those two guys be the guys, I think is really important. So I think it's less of a tennis thing and more of a, you happen to have two just really great dudes at the very top. So that's been cool. And just as somebody that hadn't watched tennis, like tennis is a ton of fun to watch, especially at that level. Like I watch Wimbledon now and I watch US Open, and it's just a lot of fun.
How do you find your stories? Like maybe like what was your first story, or like how do you stumble upon once you've figured out kind of your angle? Like, do you go looking, or do they find you, or how does that work?
Yeah. First story, I'm pretty sure it was right as Mike Gorman, who was the Celtics play-by-play guy for the past like 40 years or something, retired about a year and a half ago. So that was my first video because he was just like, he's a big part of my sports watching experience. Listening to someone for your whole life, like you feel like you know them and that voice becomes part of your life. So I think the first video was about him. As far as finding story ideas, I'm just always looking. I read The Athletic a lot. I have a subscription to them, which is just a massive, like it's national. So it's this massive database of stories from everywhere. I read the Boston Globe sports page every day. I'll even go on ESPN. Like a lot of their stuff is sort of clickbaity, negative, but they have a lot of good, like if there's a good story, they'll have it there too. So just always constantly looking. It doesn't have to be those three. Those are three that I look at regularly. But yeah, sometimes like stories will just sort of come across. I'm a big sports fan, so I'm always watching Celtics and Red Sox and Patriots, whatever it is. So some of the stuff I'll just see in like my regular life. And then since the page has grown a little bit, I'll have a lot of people that reach out that I don't know that say, hey, here's this story idea. You should cover this, which is awesome because even as somebody who watches a ton of sports, I'm obviously going to miss stuff. So that's been really good too. So that's how I usually come across stories. And then as far as like figuring out which ones I actually want to make a video on, I would say first and foremost, does it fit the page? B, does it make a good video? Like there has to be a visual component as far as the technical side of it. Like some stuff could be a great story, but there's no video, there's no B-roll. So that would make a good podcast or a good written article, but maybe not a good video. So that has to be there. Yeah, I would say that's how I find it. That's the sort of prerequisites for what's going to make a good one.
One of my favorite stories that you've done, Adam, is when you talk about Jaren Duran. And I didn't necessarily know that a lot of the details that you shared, even though, I watched the special like after that, and we try to go to as many Red Sox games as possible, but just, his struggle that he had with mental health, and then how he, after the game is over, after and all that sort of stuff, he's still going out and signing autographs. And I thought the way in which you talked about that, just providing the context and the background, and the fact that I guess you've done that more than once yourself, gone out after games at Fenway and whatnot. So, you're not just talking about the positivity in sports, but actually you're participating in it as well. I thought that was really special.
Yeah, he has a cool story. I haven't met him, but just seems like a really interesting guy. Seems like a guy that people really like. The fans definitely connect with him. Fans appreciate him. He's out there. Like, he doesn't have to do that. But he does it. He does it anyway. It's a guy that I feel like his teammates really like and get along with, and just like, it sort of makes you remember that they're these big, so I mean, he's this big, giant, like jacked gym guy. But at the end of the day, like, we view them as superheroes, and in a sense they are, but they're still normal people too.
Right. Yeah. Normal people with, that, I mean, that was a very vulnerable that he sort of portrayed. And I think that helped a lot of people out there, and, some of which we know, some of which we don't know. And I think that was just very admirable on his part.
Adam, have you, in your time, is there a favorite story that you've covered, or is that a unfair question?
Not an unfair question. I got to think about it. There's so many good ones. I guess something that I would add to my last answer is, it doesn't matter as far as finding a story. I don't care if it's the biggest NBA Finals Game 7, something cool happens there, all the way down to a high school cricket game on the other side of the world. I don't care how popular or unpopular it is. I want it to be a good story. And as long as it hits those things that I was talking about earlier, I think people will connect with it. So I don't really think it matters sort of the popularity of it. I think what really matters is that people want, and I don't think the viewers care either. I think the viewers care about what's something that is told in an interesting way. Maybe I didn't know about it. Maybe if they didn't know about it, that's even better, because it's really not about, or it's not solely about my take on the big stuff. Like, Stephen A is doing his take. Like, you care about what he says because of who he is. But if I can just do my part in bringing smaller stories, those are some of the cool ones. I'm trying to think. I don't know if it was my favorite video, but one of the first videos that really kind of blew up and got millions of views was a story I did about the men's U.S. Olympic basketball team.
So clearly, whoever took the headshot photos for Team USA basketball did not direct the players to smile or not. They just said, do whatever you want, because the range of expressions is awesome.
It wasn't this past summer, it was 2 summers ago, so it was an early one. And I was just looking for a story, as I'm kind of always doing. And I was on the USA basketball website, and they had headshots for all of the players, just photos. And some of the guys were like super happy, smiling ear to ear. And some of the guys just looked miserable. And it was just, there's like such a disparity. And I sort of thought to myself, like, I wonder if I could tell sort of a funny, fun story about, like, well, the cameraman clearly didn't tell them like what to do, because they're all doing different stuff. And so it was just sort of a funny video about, Kevin Durant's kind of in the middle, Steph Curry's smiling, and Kawhi Leonard is Kawhi Leonard. So he's like always looks miserable for some reason. And it just blew up. And I think that's the type of vibe that I'm going for. Obviously the heartfelt, like, real life stories, those are really fun too. But I'm conscious of it not being corny positivity. It's not like your daily dose of positivity, because the big idea and the most important thing to me is, like, it's not just the negativity that bothers me in mainstream sports media. It's sort of the inauthenticity of it too, where I feel like I'll be watching First Take sometimes, and I don't believe that they believe what they're saying. And that to me is, okay, you can act and it's a good show and that's fine. Like, I'm not against it. I'm just saying that the sort of the fakeness, I think, bothers people a little bit, and it's just there's a little bit of a lack of connection. So if I can just find some stuff that's more real, I feel like people view the positive thing as, oh, you're kind of spinning stuff positive, but I view it as, well, there's so many awesome stories that don't get covered. Like, that's the real sports. We're making it into something that it's not. So, like, let's find what it actually is, and such a big part of it is actually really cool.
Do you ever find yourself, I mean, obviously you're a huge Boston fan. I'm a huge Boston fan. Cam likes Detroit, and I don't know what I don't even know what your favorite hockey team is, Cam. Do you have a favorite hockey team?
I do not know.
Yeah, you just like the sport of hockey.
I just like the Tigers. That's it.
You just
I'm
like
a one team guy. I'm very
Yeah.
loyal to one team.
That's all good. Well, maybe but do you ever find yourself like Adam, like, you know, cheering for a team because you found such positivity in a person that you know that's part of that team, and you thought like, man, I know you're only 25 years old, so I don't know how deep the allegiances run, but anyways, have you ever found yourself cheering for a team that you're like, wow, I never thought in a million years that I would cheer for them, but I do because I find this exciting or this exhilarating or this as an element that is positive that I just never thought would be cheering for.
Teams, I would say no. I gotta stay loyal to I would say loyal to the Boston teams. Yeah, definitely individuals for sure.
Yeah.
Tennis, if it's like a Sinner Alcaraz final, there's no really wrong answer. I felt like for honestly no reason, I felt like I had to pick a guy just so I could have a guy to root for. So I'm like a Sinner guy, but Alcaraz is awesome too. So, but yeah, definitely like rooting for individuals. Like you want to see guys like Jaren Duran do well. You want to see likable, good people do well. So definitely that. But teams, yeah, I don't know. I'll always root for the Boston team against anyone else. And then I would say, yeah, if I did a video the other day. If I don't have a rooting interest and I'm watching with somebody that does have a rooting interest, I'll just root for who they're rooting for, like if it's a friend. But the video was about my friend who's a Yankees fan, so I had to root for the Blue Jays. Was very happy that the Blue Jays won. So
I watched that one. That was awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not high and mighty on the root for the good guys. I'm rooting for the Boston guys for sure.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, go ahead, Cam.
Yeah. So, Adam, I was wondering, one of the things that resonated with me, again, I think everybody, I'm sure people maybe share, hey, this is what it meant to me. And one of the things that resonated to me was a video you did about like, kind of like, was it worth it? Being at the top of the mountain, is it worth it? In comparison to the sacrifice. I don't know if you recall them, and you kind of have some hand-drawn things. And again, it resonated with me because Matt and I, without previous to watching that, I've talked to him about like, I started with the idea like I'm getting into coaching to go to the NHL and, look out. And then all of a sudden it's marriage, it's kids, it's and your priorities shift. And somewhere on the outside, that message never gets like told. And so I was like really resonating for someone 24, 25 years old to have that amount of maturity or awareness. And then the way you linked some of this, I think part of it was around Scotty Scheffler. Was that something background, family experience, or was it just simply like somehow just kind of slapped you in the face with Scheffler's, thing? I just was wondering how you kind of were able to capture that so well.
Yeah, thank you. Glad you liked it. That's one of my favorite videos I've done still. It was an earlier one, so it's been a while. But yeah, it was the two guys. It was when Adrian Wojnarowski, who, if people don't know, he's like the biggest NBA reporter, like dedicated his life, has every contact number. He's the guy. Like if you're going to trade somebody, you're calling Woj. So he like dedicated his life to being the best in not being an athlete or a coach, but in the media. Like he's the guy, he's the top. And it was the same time that LeBron, I was listening to an interview sort of just randomly, and LeBron was talking about how in high school, like all basketball, like that is all he cared about. And he was just working, he was getting up early, and he sort of missed other stuff. And then he obviously got drafted right out of high school. So he didn't go to college, but a lot of his friends from Akron went to college, and they would go to local places, Ohio State or University of Akron or wherever it was. And he was in Cleveland, so he was still right there. And they would be like, LeBron, like, you got to come to a party or come hang out or this or that. And he never would. He would always say no because he was so focused on this one thing. Both of these guys, Woj and LeBron, in two, I guess not very different fields, same sort of connection with basketball, but very different at the same time. Both of them really made intense sacrifices, especially of people. Like they sacrificed time with people that they enjoyed to become the best. And they both became the best. Like it happened. If you told them 20 years ago, this is what's going to happen, like you will be the best. Like people argue LeBron is the best player ever. LeBron and Woj is probably like the best NBA reporter ever. So everything that they wished would happen happened. And they still both talk about, man, like I kind of wish I went to a few of those parties, and I kind of wish I like hung out with these people a little bit more, saw my family more, this or that, or whatever it is. And it really comes back to people. So I don't even think it was a personal thing that I saw, but just being a fan, the Tom Brady's and the Kobe Bryants and the Michael Jordans, and we idolize these people. And sometimes rightly so, like they're incredible at what they do. And it was really due to like the maniacal work ethic. Obviously a ton of great genetics and talent and innate ability and whatever. But these guys just sacrificed everything to get there. And I don't know if they're always the happiest people, to be honest. Like I see a lot of these guys have problems off the court or off the field, or I don't want to say like for them that they're not happy people. Like I'm sure that a lot of them are happy with what they've done, but I don't know. Like I was thinking if I have kids or if I have people that I care about or whatever it is that what I want for them? Like, do I want that for the people that I care about? And I think the answer might be no, or at least like you should think about it more. Because we idolize so much like the Kobe Mamba mentality, which is great. Like to have that, you're going to have more success. You have the killer instinct. You're up at 5:30 in the morning. You're consistent. You have to have a level of that to reach what you want to get. But I think just it's important to keep in mind priorities, and like people actually are the most important thing. And I feel like in my own life, like I was never Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan, like work ethic wise, like they're insane. But in high school, I was very focused on grades and very focused on school, very focused on like following the rules that people told me were the rules and whatever, sort of straight edged. And then I got to college and still focused on grades, maybe a little bit less so, still really like just focused, worked hard, worked a lot, felt like I missed some things because of it. And now I feel like even as I'm starting this business and I work a lot, like it's not like I'm just doing nothing, but I think just having a more thoughtful outlook on priorities, like a lot of people, I feel like the first thing that people will sacrifice is other people and time with friends and family or whatever it is, the people that you have fun with. And to me, that's like the last thing that I want to sacrifice now. That's the thing that makes me happiest. That's the thing. Like if I sacrifice that and I like this business is huge and I have all this money, is that what I really want, or is what I really want what I have right now? And I sort of just thought about it, and I think just I want what I have right now. And obviously I want the business to do well and I work hard and all of that, but I don't know if going back to the video, like, is that worth it? Just sort of having that thought. Maybe it is worth it, but at least just maybe think about it.
Yeah, I just, again, I number one, thank you for that. And the other thing I would to add, I think a dimension is the amount of people that I've come across that follow the same mentality, but don't have maybe the genetics or the end game, right? And so they don't ever get to that height, have made those same sacrifices. And again, not saying, but that's been a message of mine. And again, my life shifting and seeing a different version of it is a lot of times we chase the 1% and ignore the 99% outcome, right? And trying to stop and enjoy the experience a little bit more has been something, and I thought you did just a masterful job of telling the story. So, but thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Adam. So I spent a lot of my career just in Europe and just Air Force career, being stationed in Europe, and how you described it. Again, I would echo what Cam said. It was masterful, and I did not have your perspective at 25 years of age at all. And I think the way you described it, arguably, I wish I had arrived there earlier. But anyways, being stationed in Europe and working just with NATO and working with our European allies, how they describe it, and I had as a young major, I had one of my mentors was a German Air Force officer, and he would explain it to me. And he would say, he'd be like, Matt, you need to do a better job of work-life balance. In Germany or in Europe, we work to live, we don't live to work. And I think that up to that point, I just felt like my job is I just got to work, because that's how I gain, that's how I feel fulfilled, and that's what I need to do, and all that sort of stuff. And I think that really changed my perspective just on life. And, I think there was times where I probably still work 50, 60 hours because that's just the American thing to do. But I think that if we establish more of that work-life balance, I think there would be a lot more people that would be happier, not just in sports, but just in life in general. Because don't we want to be happy in all phases of our life, right? We want to be happy as kids. We want to be happy as adults. We want to be happy as we're watching sports. We want to be happy as we're going to school, when we're breaking bread with each other and all that sort of stuff. And I think that the world is is to a certain extent turned upside down on its head right now. And I think that in any facet of life, if we can bring that level of positivity back and put things into perspective, I think that's important. I think it's worth doing. And again, how you described it was fantastic. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Adam, have you had any interaction with any of these stories? Like, have you been able yet, or is it a goal of yours? Maybe it's not. But again, I watched a really cool one recently about the dad in the wheelchair and has the twins that get drafted, right? Like, what have you, whether it's that story or any other, have any of them ever reached out and been like, that was really cool the way you've connected that? And again, maybe that's not even your goal, but
Yeah, I would say at this point, rarely. I did a story about, I go to the Boston, I'm from Boston, obviously. I go to the Boston Marathon every year. It's one of my favorite events to go to. It's so different. Like, I'm so used to going to these events that are super competitive and they're one team versus another, which is awesome. I love the competitive aspect of it. But the Boston Marathon is different in the sense it's every fan rooting for every athlete. And that's a really cool switch up. And that's to be there every year, like truly one of my favorite events to go to. I'm there every year. And I went with one of my buddies and his family this past year. And there was a guy getting pushed in a wheelchair. And I was just taking a bunch of videos because I was thinking, oh, maybe like get some B-roll to do a video. That'd be fun. And I just happened to have a video of him. And I was looking through my phone the next day and I saw it and his name was Jeffrey. And my friend was like screaming everybody's name. Like, it's just fun to cheer because you're cheering for everybody. And so I'd never heard of him. We didn't know him. And his name was, I think it was Jeffrey Burkle. And I think he had ALS. So he was in a wheelchair at this point.
This is Jeffrey Burkle, but he's probably not who you think. I saw him on Monday in the Boston Marathon, didn't know who he was, he had a name tag, we cheered for him. Jeffrey! It turns out Jeffrey is a runner. He's run 10 marathons, Boston included.
His two sons were pushing him, and it was just like an amazing story of this family who found out their dad, he was a runner. He ran marathons, and now he always wanted to do Boston, and now he's in a wheelchair and he got to do it with his family. His sons are pushing him, everybody's cheering. So it's this really cool story. And he reached out after I did the
That's
video.
awesome.
And just cool. It's not a LeBron or Tatum or Tom Brady reaching out, but just to have like the guy that you saw and has this cool story, and he reached out and said, hey, like, that was awesome, I appreciate it. That was really
That's
cool.
great.
So yeah, it's always great to have people reach out for sure.
So Adam, you should run the Boston Marathon. Have you decided?
yeah, zing, right?
I have not decided to run it yet. I think it would be
Yeah.
cool at some point. I have this current goal of dunking a basketball, which is
Okay.
an aside. I don't want to take this conversation off the rails, but
Yeah.
so my current goal is like dunk a basketball. You're not, once you hit like mid-30s, like it's probably not going to happen. So you got to do it now.
Yeah.
So I'm doing that
We're
now.
over, boss man. We can't do it, boss man.
Yeah.
It's over.
Yeah.
You might be past the basketball dunking prime.
Yeah.
But so I'm that's my current goal. So fast twitch in the gym every day, plyometric workouts, sprinting. So that's my thing right now. But I think after I get that goal sorted away, I actually have a friend. I was in Nantucket. My friend has a place on Nantucket over this past weekend, and they were running a half marathon, him and one of my other friends. So we went and cheered them on. So the running community is really cool, whether it's a small like half marathon, 5K, all the way up to big ones like Boston, Chicago, New York. The atmosphere is just really cool. It's super supportive. It's fun. So eventually I actually would like to run Boston.
How tall are you, Adam?
6 feet?
6 feet.
Yeah.
So to dunk, that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. No, very good. I wish you the best of luck, and
Appreciate it.
I hope that if your first marathon is Boston, like, yeah, it'll be electric. You'll love it.
For sure.
Yeah, and just I don't know the exact stats, but I believe Matt's run it more than a handful of times. Boss man, if you want to maybe jump in here, but how many times have you run it?
Yeah, so 3 times, 2 times in person, and then once was the virtual year, Adam. And I guarantee you'll run it probably hours faster than I will, but you'll. And I don't know if you're looking to compete or you're looking to be part of a team, but obviously being a Boston guy, there's tons of teams that you could be a part of, that people would love to have you, and you'd have no problem raising money. But like, to be part of that final wave, that fourth wave, Adam, is like, it is. I think it's the fun wave. I would never be in the first, second, or third waves. I just don't have that. I'm not running it in 2 hours and whatever minutes.
It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, Zdeno Chara just finished the Chicago Marathon. It was like 3 hours and 18 minutes or 20 minutes, and he's crushed it. especially as someone that's like 6'8", 6'9". But yeah.
Yeah. No, congrats on finishing. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. And Boston is like Boston. Yeah, Boston's phenomenal. And I've never run another marathon, but Boston is phenomenal. And you're right. I mean, it is just people cheering you from like mile 1 all the way through mile 26. And it's the hardest part, I think, for me is just you get to like mile 20 and you're starving and you're hungry and everyone's cooking and doing all that sort of stuff. And they're offering you beers and drinks and food. And you're just like, I can't eat yet, man. I got like 6 miles to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fantastic. But yeah, if you do run it, the Colonel and the coach would absolutely love to be a sponsor of Adam Doucette and Default Positive.
Hell
so
yeah. I think we can make it happen.
yeah,
I do think it is interesting not coming from that community of like just to what Matt said, the amount of I grew up thinking of marathons as the first wave, right? But the amount of the teams, the stories, the money raised for organizations in the background and never knowing that and kind of meeting Matt. And it is a really phenomenal way. And I went down, had a friend from home that ran it the year after the marathon bombing, and just it was my first experience. And to your point, Adam, of the people that the cheering for everybody, like it's a different sporting event, right? And that year was pretty special. But yeah, what a great thing. But I do think it's worth just taking a moment to talk about the amount of people that do it for a cause, right? And they run it, and there's obviously personal sacrifice in that, but they are doing it for something greater than themselves. Pretty cool that can be connected and those dots can be connected. And maybe we'll get a picture or two of the boss man in full sprint down the
yeah,
We need that.
yeah.
yeah.
It's all good. Awesome. Adam, before I forget, how we'd like to end the podcast is, and maybe you can tell the story as well, is you always end your podcast with, and that's one good thing. Can you tell us, how you got there? And one is, we love it. I think it's fantastic. I think it's part of your, it's a signature moment for the podcast, and it's already been good up to that point. And then you kind of like, you close with that, but can you tell us kind of how you arrived at that and what that means to you?
Yeah. I kind of stole it, to be honest with you.
Oh, did you?
I didn't steal. It's a play off of, so I have some problems with ESPN and their sort of content strategy and how they do things. But one of the things that I love about ESPN is Scott Van Pelt and his version of SportsCenter. I think he's so good at what he does and so respected by all the athletes that he interviews, and just like comfortable with what he's doing and with himself and talking to people. So I love Scott Van Pelt, and he has a segment on his version of SportsCenter called One Big Thing. So that's like my adaptation of that. Yeah. So I guess I didn't steal it. It's an adaptation. But yeah, it's just originally I was going to do 2 types of videos. One type was going to be one good thing, and one type was going to be like the crafty vet of the week, and just talk about, the old guy who's still doing it, and Al Horford type of thing, and just good stories like that. And I just felt like those were harder to find and connected a little bit less. So they all kind of became one good thing. But that's just sort of the format that I feel like people have connected with, and just having that specific thing, sort of tagline, just kind of ties it all together. And that's what I'm looking for. Like, there's so many good things in sports, and if I can tell one at a time, just that's one good thing. So that's where it came from, and it feels like it's sort of connected with people.
It unequivocally, it's connected with me, and I know it's connected with Cam as well. And I absolutely love it. And maybe one of your buddies, when they're doing the film of you in the gym and you throw it down, they can end that particular montage with, and that's one great thing.
I like that. It's going to be a windmill too.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. If you don't have big goals, you might as well not have goals, right?
Right.
Doesn't want to dunk it. He wants to windmill. I love it.
That's awesome.
Hey, Adam. So obviously, like Matt and I, again, we're a few ages your senior, as you pointed out, and our dunking prowess is behind us. But our like life's changed. Like the idea that somebody could graduate, university and become an entrepreneur in the media sphere and run your own thing, like it wasn't around. Not that I would have chased that, but it just wasn't around. So it's kind of this new frontier, and I would say that there's a lot of people that are trying to tell you how to do it, but not necessarily. It's not like you can go to school at Northeastern on how to become a viral superstar. There's a lot of people that have a lot of ideas on it, but it's not. It's just a different thing. What would be your spin on that person that sees you, that identifies with you, that wants to be entrepreneurial, has an idea? What would your advice be to that person, whether they're old like us or young, coming out there?
Yeah. I would say first and foremost, just do it. Like, there's no substitute for just doing it. Like, I've learned so much. I went to school for the audio side of things, so that's definitely helped with the audio side of video production. But I had never touched the camera until my last year at school, when I started like thinking of the idea. I had never touched the camera. I had no idea how to edit. I didn't have any software, like design skills. And just like YouTube, like there are so many amazing resources where you can just teach yourself for free. So yeah, just do it. Like, you have to. So many people say they have so many ideas, and a lot of them do, and a lot of them are great. Or I'm sure people that they say they want to do stuff, and they do want to do it, but they just don't actually do it. So there's just no substitute for just actually doing it. And I'll say, like, I'm in a great position, like super lucky to be born in the place that I'm born, and I can live in a place where the rent is cheap. I can, I have a fallback plan. Like, I'm not going to be, if it doesn't work, I'm not going to be homeless. Like, I have a mom who's going to take care of me. I have a family. I have a network of friends. I went to Northeastern. Like, all of these things, like, totally get that not everybody has that. So definitely have been lucky, but there's so much, free resources to just, even if you have to work a full-time job and then you do it on the side and it's just a slower process. But like, I do think a lot of people with the resources just don't do it. Yeah, I would say totally just start. It's going to take a long time. All these people that eventually get really big and popular and successful, it seems maybe like an overnight success, but it almost never is. Sometimes with like the short-term social media stars, like something can blow up, but that's usually not sustainable. But the people that have really built something, it's almost never overnight. Like, I look at Dave Portnoy and Barstool, or Bill Simmons at The Ringer, and decades of writing and being a bartender and just figuring it out and schlepping newspapers at the T. Like, Barstool, like, I keep going back to the Barstool thing in my own head, and Barstool is not exactly my cup of tea. Like, what I do is pretty different, but I have a ton of respect for that story. And like, he did it and he just didn't stop until it worked. And I really respect that. So just honestly, just do it.
I love that. Adam, there's one thing I got to point out that I think you're really good at. And I think that, Cam and I work with a lot of folks in the younger generation. And I did just when I was at, university, just from like a whatever professor / Air Force chair perspective and whatnot. Your oration, your ability to tell a story and all that sort of stuff is exceptional. And it's captivating. And like, people want to listen to you and stuff like that. And I was not always good at it. And it was something that even to this day, if I'm going to go speak in front of people, I get butterflies. Like, it's like game time. I got to think about it. I'm thinking through it. Like, what's my point? What's my follow-on point? What's my thread? And all that sort of stuff. But just in the same vein that the question that Cam just asked, and I know you would say just do it, but like, how did you get to the point of just being someone who's such a good storyteller and someone who's able to weave, the sort of the thought process together? Is that something that you would always just practice, growing up? Or did your music background, help in that context of being able to like sort of just, tune into what's important and then how to, the proper voice inflection and stuff? But I know there was like 15 questions there, but just if you could, if someone, because everyone thinks nowadays that they're an Instagram star, and not necessarily that they need to explode onto the scene, but just, I think that you've done a very dynamic job, a very good job of just expressing your stories in a way that people want to listen, and it captivates them. Any thoughts there?
Yeah. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
I would say don't go back and watch the first video, which honestly wasn't that long ago. It was like a year and a half ago. But if you go back and watch it, it was so boring. Like, it's just, so
Right.
The delivery is so boring. And you talked about like getting butterflies, going up in front and talking to people. Like, I totally still have that. I get butterflies like sitting and talking to the camera. Like, I'm the only person in this room, and it still makes me nervous. So that's like totally still there. And I like public speaking, like, would be so nervous. So that's definitely not gone. I think as far as the on camera delivery, I've gotten better because it's on video and I can watch it back and see every day like, oh, I wish I kind of did that differently. So I don't know, maybe advice for if you're trying to get better specifically at like speaking and feeling natural and normal and not as boring on camera. I guess I would say like film yourself and be able to, because the ability to watch it back and listen to it back, like I think everybody kind of hates hearing their own voice, but when you're on camera too, it's just a good opportunity to be able to watch it back and see what you want to change. So I would say just doing it over and over again, A, and then B, making intentional changes, like even just the use of your hands and like being a little bit more natural instead of like nervous and stiff and that. Yeah. Don't watch the first video.
Yeah. Well, anyways, I just want to reiterate, I think the way in which you tell stories is masterful, and it makes you just want to listen to more, which of course folks are probably like, why are you binge watching on social media? And I'm like, I don't know. It's exciting. But yeah.
Thank you.
I grew up in a world in the Air Force, Adam, where I had to constantly talk on the radio nonstop. And you would go back and we'd do these debriefs that would last 2, 3, in some cases 4 hours. And I would cringe just hearing myself. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I sound like that. And then like yourself, and I don't know if you noticed this, but being from Boston, you have a Boston accent. And I had a Boston accent when I first joined the Air Force. And there was times early in my Air Force career as a young lieutenant, they'd be like, Smitty, like, we cannot understand what you're saying. You need to articulate better because, your R's are just all over the place and all that sort of stuff. So I legitimately had to change the way in which I talk because I was talking on the radio so much and whatnot. But yeah.
Yeah, that aspect of it is funny because I feel like when I watch the videos back, the accent's like borderline gone.
Yeah, right.
Because I'm so focused on articulating and being like really clear.
Yeah, right.
But when I'm talking in real, even something like this, I feel like it kind of gets toned down just because I know it's going to be, not even intentionally, but yeah, like when I'm with my friends from here, it's a different problem.
I love it. It's awesome.
Adam, what's next, man? Like you're having success, and at the same time you're entrepreneurial, and like what's next for you? What's next for your page? What's next for your channel?
Yeah. From a business perspective, I guess from a creative perspective, just continuing to do things that like are exciting content wise. I feel like filming stuff is really cool. Like having a cinematic aspect to hopefully doing longer form YouTube videos in the future will be really fun. Getting to work with athletes is like front of mind. I think that'd be incredible. I think people like behind the scenes content. And so I think it's also kind of a way to humanize athletes who, like I was saying, we view as superheroes, but are actually real human beings too. From a business perspective, I would say starting with short form video is intentional. I think it's a good way to get the umbrella as big as possible, get as many people in the door. It's an algorithmic based environment. So on short form social platforms, you don't have to make people click. Whereas on YouTube, you do. On short form, it gets served to you. Gives it to people who think are going to like it, who it thinks are going to like it. So moving from that to long form, I feel like that's sort of the next step down in the funnel. It's maybe a few less people, a little bit more work, but a better way to connect with people, build a deeper relationship, give them more stuff, show them more things that I think they should care about. And then I think eventually a newsletter would be really cool. Like Friday morning, here's the 5 best stories in sports this week. Here are the 5 things you should know about. I think that kind of fits format wise. Like the monetization of it, brand deals. I've been really intentional about not taking too many brand deals. I've only done one. I don't want to be the guy that they're like, 50,000 followers, it's still very small, and like he's selling out and schlepping all these stupid brands. Like I really want, if I'm going to do a brand deal, I'm going to like the brand. I'm going to have used it or think it's a positive for my audience. So just being intentional about that and balancing that with actually making it a career, because I think people a lot of the time view creators, or maybe a little bit less with sports media, but just creating stuff in general, they want it, especially on the music side, like coming from the music side, people want artists to be this pure, it's for the music, it's for the creativity. And I love that too. But if you want to have the opportunity to do that and only do that and really put the time into making this thing that you think is awesome, you have to make it a career. You have to make money. So balancing ethical brand deals, things that I actually believe in, positive ways to monetize it with making it work is like what I'm on right now. So yeah, I would say just keep growing it, keep networking, keep like meeting amazing people doing stuff like this. Like the coolest part is having people like you guys reach out that I don't know, being like, hey, I think what you're doing is cool. So that's been really cool.
Adam, just food for thought. Like if I was ever like a chair of the communication department, or I don't even know what that would be called at Northeastern, but like unequivocally would want you to at least be an adjunct professor to teach a class. One is because you're young, and I know that you would resonate with that audience, and you would just be able to connect with that generation and stuff like that. So, I know I'm not turning this into like a mentorship session and all that sort of stuff, but just if I was ever in a position, I would absolutely love to have you just on the communication teams, because I think that your insight, your experience, and all that sort of stuff would be invaluable. And I'm not just saying just at Northeastern, but New England does not have a shortage of colleges, and I think that I spent a lot of time just from an Air Force perspective working with public affairs on how to communicate with people and how to do all that sort of stuff. And I just think your skill set it just goes way beyond what you're doing right now. And I think that you would just have an unbelievably positive impact on generations of people, of students of communication, students of life, people who are trying to just, convey their message, and either through this platform or through other platforms. So I think your future is incredibly bright. It's arguably white hot.
Appreciate that. Yeah, that means a lot. That's the first I've got
Yeah.
with the professor thing. So appreciate it.
Yeah.
There you go.
And I know the professor, you picture this old stodgy guy that's up in front with this tweed jacket and all that sort of stuff. But like, arguably, being a professor could be utilizing this platform. I do all of our stuff completely, almost 97, 98% virtual.
Yeah.
And, and I think you could reach people literally all over the world.
Adam, as we close here, I just want to take a moment to, again, thank you for seeing the good, for finding the good, and not only like almost taking a stance against maybe the negative side of things that we all fall into, and saying there's a better way to convey these stories. And again, it's extremely resonating as a former athlete, and as a I was a goalie. So, you talk about puck goes in, the red light, you get yelled. Like the idea that you find positivity and tell those stories, I can't tell you how phenomenal I think it is. And again, we buried the lead a little bit, but to put you on the spot, I'm wondering if, usually we say thank you, we say goodbye, but just you've created but wonder if you would be able to take us out, take us home, and tie a bow on this, close this thing down.
Try my best. Before I do that, I will say, people will ask you, oh, do you have any regrets? Like that's just like something people talk about. My one regret from growing up is not playing hockey and being a goalie. I find that like the most fascinating position. I was like 20 years old asking for hockey goalie leg pads for Christmas. Like I'll go out on the pond in the winter and like ask my friends to shoot pucks at me. Like I think that would have been so fun. So that is a regret. Just wanted to get that out there.
That's just so you know, that is a totally different podcast. It's a totally different session, and there's different doctors that diagnose people with that, have people shoot pucks at them.
Yes.
So I just throw that out there.
Yeah. No, there was when I was at Northeastern, the goalie was Devin Levi, who's in the NHL now.
Fantastic, phenomenal.
It's
yeah.
so fun to watch him, and he's the nicest kid too. So just I find it a fascinating position.
And there's a guy that is like literally from everything I've heard and having kind of tracked his story, we're talking about like the pros pro and the way that he goes about his business. But
yeah, for sure.
Not to get off track.
I interviewed him at Northeastern. I met him a couple times, and just like super nice guy, kind of like just silly and like not super serious. But yeah, goalies I feel like usually have some sort of unique personality, and he definitely does. But when he's on the ice, he is locked in. He puts the work in for sure.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I would just say with what I'm doing, like, hey, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. This has been fun.
Thank you, Adam.
Yeah, and just with what I'm doing, there is a lot of real bad things happening in the world, like real negativity, things that you probably should be negative about. There's politics, and there's war, and there's natural disasters, and like I say it in these videos all the time, but like there are real bad things. And so I'm not trying to make it out to be everything's all sunshine and rainbows at all. But sports seems like to me an arena that isn't that by nature of what it is. It's awesome. It's entertainment. It's supposed to be fun. And to have seemingly everybody, all from the highest levels of ESPN and these big companies, all the way down to individual Twitter warriors and fans that sort of feed off of that big media energy, it seems like it has been getting turned into more negative, more hot takes, more clickbait, more fake And that just wasn't something I was resonating with. And I feel like a lot of people felt the same way. Actually, before I started the brand at all, I asked a bunch of people. I would call friends and text people and ask them, hey, this is my idea of it. Do you agree? And if you don't, totally fine. Like, tell me. And then I would ask them for another contact that I didn't know. So I asked a bunch of people, and like, I would say 99% of people agreed with me. So I sort of thought to myself, okay, there's probably something there. So yeah, I guess what I'll leave you with is just, we don't have to turn things that are supposed to be fun into the negative, even if it feels like you're incentivized to do that. And sometimes if everybody's going that way, maybe you're just better off doing your own thing. And that's how I felt. And I felt like it was a good business opportunity. It was a good time to start the brand. And it was something that I would feel better doing than jumping on the opposite side of the train. So yeah, that was my thought. And it's been good so far. It's been a slow grind. It's, stay consistent, but really at the end of the day, like, none of it's hard. There are real hard things, and like posting on Instagram 3 times a week isn't one of them. So it's been fun talking to you guys. So appreciate you.
Awesome. Thank you, Adam.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.